There are figures in the history of cinema and performance who do not merely appear on a screen, but rather settle into the collective consciousness of entire generations, leaving impressions so distinct and indelible that they feel almost elemental. Long before modern digital wizardry and hyper-refined cinematic universes became the norm, our screens were populated by an entirely different kind of magic, one crafted through sheer physical discipline, boundless vocal range, and an uncanny ability to disappear behind entirely distinct facades. When we think back to the stories that shaped our childhoods, the films that kept us awake at night, and the comedies that made entire living rooms erupt in laughter, we often discover a single common thread weaving through them all, hidden in plain sight behind diverse masks, distinct accents, and radical physical transformations. It is a rare and astonishing craft, one that requires an artist to abandon their own vanity completely, surrendering to the bizarre, the eccentric, the terrifying, and the uproariously funny. In an era where many actors find a comfortable persona and repeat it across decades, the true shapeshifters of stage and screen stand out as monumental anomalies, captivating us not because we recognize the person playing the part, but precisely because we are so utterly convinced by the illusion they create before our very eyes. If you appreciate deep explorations into the legendary masters of stage and screen who have defined cinema history, take a moment right now to subscribe to our channel and join our community of passionate film enthusiasts, ensuring you never miss an installment of these comprehensive cinematic journeys. As we embark on this retrospective, it is worth asking ourselves what truly makes an artist unforgettable in the vast landscape of dramatic entertainment. Is it the sheer number of blockbuster hits, or is it the profound emotional resonance of performances that become ingrained in the fabric of popular culture across entirely distinct genres? To truly understand this phenomenon, one must travel back through the shifting tides of 20th century entertainment, examining how theater, television, and major motion pictures intersected to produce a uniquely theatrical style of character performance. During this golden period, an actor could seamlessly transition from grand Shakespearean stages and high-concept musical revues to the intimate, flicker-lit frames of classic comedies and gothic horror stories, bringing an operatic grandeur to every single frame they inhabited. The sheer breadth of such a career defies conventional categorization, challenging our understanding of what it means to be a leading man, a supporting scene stealer, and a cultural icon all at once. To look closely at this extraordinary tradition is to observe a masterclass in vocal inflection and physical theater. Think of the way an actor uses their voice not merely to deliver dialogue, but to construct an entire internal world for a character, allowing deep baritone resonances, sudden playful whispers, and grand melodic crescendos to dictate the emotional rhythm of an entire scene. When an artist possesses this level of vocal mastery, they can command an audience without moving a single muscle, projecting authority, mischief, menace, or sheer warmth with the subtlest modulation of tone. Yet, voice is only half the equation. The physical presence of a true chameleon is equally mesmerizing. Whether donning heavy prosthetic makeup, wearing elaborate period costumes, or simply moving through a crowded room with a distinctive, exaggerated cadence, these performers transform their very anatomy to serve the narrative. In doing so, they elevate what might have been a simple archetype into an unforgettable, living legend, leaving audiences simultaneously mesmerized, unsettled, and thoroughly entertained. The journey toward achieving such mastery is rarely straightforward, requiring years of rigorous theatrical training, an unyielding willingness to take massive artistic risks, and a fearless embrace of the unconventional. The atmosphere surrounding these iconic productions is steeped in a sense of theatrical ambition that is rarely seen in modern commercial cinema. In the heart of London, across the vibrant stages of the West End, and through the bustling film studios of Hollywood, a new breed of performer began to emerge in the latter half of the 20th century. These were artists who did not fit neatly into traditional romantic leading roles, yet possessed far too much charisma, intensity, and raw talent to be relegated to the background. Instead, they carved out a singular niche, turning supporting roles into the main attraction and infusing every villain, eccentric mentor, and comical servant with an undeniable, larger-than-life energy. Viewers found themselves drawn to these magnetic presences, often remembering the idiosyncratic charm of a peculiar butler, the sinister smile of an ancient nemesis, or the flamboyant flair of an unforgettable antagonist far more vividly than the standard heroes of the story. This peculiar dynamic created a lasting legacy, where the mere announcement of a specific actor's involvement was enough to elevate an entire production, promising audiences a performance brimming with intelligence, humor, and theatrical brilliance. As we look back at the cinematic tapestry of the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s, we encounter a remarkable paradox. Millions of viewers worldwide were intimately familiar with a dazzling variety of classic characters, quoting their lines verbatim and shuddering at their terrifying cinematic moments. Yet many did not immediately realize that the same creative mind and beating heart was behind all of them. This is the ultimate triumph of the character actor, to become so thoroughly woven into the cultural imagination that their creations achieve a life of their own, independent of the individual beneath the makeup. From grand drawing room mysteries and high-seas adventure tales to whimsical holiday adventures and dark, surreal fairy tales, this extraordinary lineage of performance demonstrated an astonishing adaptability, moving across mediums and genres with effortless grace. It is a legacy defined not by a single signature persona, but by a kaleidoscopic body of work that continues to inspire awe, evoke nostalgia, and remind us of the boundless possibilities of dramatic performance. The stage was set for an artistic journey that would span decades, continents, and artistic forms, redefining what it meant to bring fantasy and reality together on the silver screen. Audiences who watched these stories unfold in darkened theaters and cozy living rooms were witnessing the work of a consummate craftsman, an individual who approached every role with absolute commitment, whether performing in an avant-garde musical or delivering spine-chilling monologues in a classic horror adaptation. The sheer discipline required to maintain this level of excellence across such wildly divergent material is nothing short of breathtaking. As we peel back the layers of this fascinating career, we begin to appreciate the intricate mechanisms of character acting, the profound influence of classic British theatrical traditions, and the timeless power of an artist who understood that true greatness lies in the courage to transform completely, leaving an enduring mark on the history of global storytelling. Part 2. The curtain rises fully when we bring these scattered masterworks into focus and name the singular titan behind every one of them, the legendary, incomparable Tim Curry. To examine his career during the golden decades of the late 20th century is to witness an artist who possessed an almost superhuman capacity for transformation, seamlessly moving between manic slapstick comedy, profound theatrical villainy, and primal psychological horror. While many actors find success by cultivating a dependable, comfortable screen presence, Curry threw himself into the furthest extremes of human emotion and theatrical expression, approaching every single character with total conviction, impeccable technical skill, and an intoxicating sense of joy. There was no role too strange, no villain too sinister, and no farce too demanding for his boundless physical energy and deep, resonant baritone voice. He did not merely recite his lines, he inhabited the very atmospheric marrow of every production he touched, elevating ensemble comedies into timeless cult classics and transforming genre television into landmark moments of pop cultural history. Now Part 2, Section 4, Advanced Architectural Paradigms and Infrastructure Orchestration. The structural transition from centralized monolithic frameworks to distributed, event-driven mesh ecosystems represents a foundational necessity for modern data engineering and operational scalability. In this secondary phase of system modernization, infrastructure orchestration cannot rely solely on conventional load balancing heuristics or rigid vertical provisioning schedules. Instead, organizations must instantiate dynamic control planes that continuously harmonize compute distribution, storage topology, and low-latency network fabrics across heterogeneous multi-cloud and edge operational environments. Dynamic resource allocation requires the integration of algorithmic capacity forecasting, where predictive telemetry ingestion continuously parses historical consumption trends alongside real-time ingress telemetry. By leveraging nonlinear regression models coupled with threshold anomaly detection algorithms, the orchestration plane preempts traffic surges, reallocating node pools across autonomous clusters prior to degradation events. This predictive autoscaling mechanism significantly reduces cold start latencies inherent in containerized virtualization environments and serverless execution runtimes. Distributed control plane architecture. Ingress telemetry to predictive heuristics to automated node topology. In data mesh domains, zero trust mesh, minus domain analytical nodes, eBPF packet filter, immutable event logs, mutual TLS, self-describing schemas, dynamic attestation. The adoption of a decentralized data mesh architecture shifts operational ownership from monolithic centralized repositories to federated, domain-specific data products. Under this paradigm, individual operational units maintain direct governance over their respective transactional schemas, transformation pipelines, and analytical interfaces. Data democratization, however, does not imply architectural anarchy. Standard interoperability protocols, semantic schemas, and global metadata registries must be enforced programmatically via declarative infrastructure as code (IAC) definitions. Operational layer structural responsibility core technology / standard observability and SLA target ingress control. Dynamic routing, protocol translation, rate limiting, envoy gateway, eBPF routing. Sub-millisecond latency, 99.99%, 9% uptime. Domain pipelines, streaming aggregation, schema validation, stateful processing. Apache Flink, Kafka streams. Eventual consistency, less than 250 milliseconds. Storage fabric, tiered immutable object storage. Column-oriented indexing. Apache Iceberg, Parquet, CEFP. 99 query response less than 1.2 seconds. Security layer. Ephemeral identity verification, microsegmentation. Spiffy/Spire, open policy agent. Policy evaluation, less than 5 milliseconds. Section 5. Real-time stream processing and stateful event sourcing. Modern enterprise workloads require stateful stream processing runtimes capable of processing hundreds of thousands of events per second with strictly once-delivered semantics. Traditional batch-oriented ETL workflows introduce structural analytical delays that impair automated fraud mitigation, high-frequency transactional validation, and adaptive pricing platforms. Stateful event streaming addresses these latency challenges by persisting raw event streams as immutable records within append-only distributed ledgers. Event-sourcing architectures decouple state modifications from the underlying persistence models. Rather than storing solely the current mutated state of an entity, the system records every state transition as a discretely stamped event. Read-optimized materializations are generated downstream through asynchronous projection engines, permitting parallel creation of specialized query indices without placing contention locks on transactional databases. State evolution equation. S sub t equals f of S sub t minus 1, E sub t, where S represents the entity state at time t, and E represents the immutable event payload applied to prior state S sub t minus 1. To maintain fault tolerance within stateful stream processors, distributed checkpointing algorithms must be paired with externalized state backends. In the event of a worker node failure, recovery procedures rebuild state partitions from the most recent transactional checkpoint combined with ledger replay. This guarantees that internal states remain deterministically synchronized with ingested message boundaries, preventing computational duplication or silent state corruption. Partition assignment strategies must also account for dynamic workload skew. Uniform round-robin or simple hash-based key distributions frequently generate processing bottlenecks when specific high-volume entities dominate transaction logs. Implementing custom, consistent hashing algorithms, augmented with bounded load limits, ensures balanced resource utilization across worker threads while preserving deterministic event ordering for interdependent transactional streams. Section 6. Zero Trust Security, Ephemeral Cryptography, and Edge Policy Enforcement. Legacy perimeter-based perimeter defense models are entirely inadequate in distributed multi-tenant cloud environments where workloads span across public infrastructure, internal bare metal clusters, and edge processing appliances. Modern defensive architecture requires the uncompromising adoption of Zero Trust Network Architecture, ZTNA, grounded in continuous cryptographic authentication, dynamic authorization evaluation, and strictly scoped ephemeral privilege delegation. Every operational microservice must establish mutual TLS, MTLS connections, leveraging ephemeral X.509 certificates issued by an automated public key infrastructure, PKI, orchestrator. Certificate lifespans must be reduced to short-lived durations, drastically shrinking the temporal attack surface associated with credential leakage or unauthorized key exfiltration. Machine identity management platforms assign unique cryptographic identities based on attestation parameters that validate runtime binary integrity, execution namespaces, and host hardware platform modules. Dynamic Zero Trust Evaluation Flow. 1. Ingress. 1. Ingress request with signed identity token, SPFFE verifiable ID. 2. Runtime kernel attestation via eBPF security modules. 3. Distributed Policy Engine, OPA, evaluates context, role, and posture. 4. Ephemeral decryption key generated via secret management vault. 5. Transaction executed within isolated micro VM or sandboxed container. Policy enforcement must execute at the kernel layer using extended Berkeley packet filters, eBPF. By injecting programmable verification logic directly into the operating system kernel, organizations can inspect network packets, monitor system calls, and enforce fine-grained microsegmentation rules without introducing the latency penalties typically associated with user space proxy routing. Security monitoring tools leverage this low-overhead mechanism to detect malicious lateral movement, unauthorized socket bindings, and unexpected process forks in real time. Data protection frameworks must implement envelope encryption across all tiers of the persistent stack. Data encryption keys, DEKs, used to secure individual object payloads must be encrypted under sovereign key encryption keys, KEKs, managed inside hardware security modules, HSMs. Periodic cryptographic key rotation policies must execute automatically without requiring system downtime or bulk data re-encryption, utilizing key versioning wrappers to decouple cryptographic key life cycles from data residency duration. Section 7. Resiliency engineering, automated remediation, and fault injection. Building resilient software architectures necessitates structural preparation for systemic failure rather than assuming continuous underlying infrastructure availability. Resiliency engineering establishes autonomous mitigation mechanisms designed to absorb cascading degradation, circuit breaker triggers, dynamic shedding of non-critical workloads, and self-healing cluster recovery routines. Reliability calculation heuristic. Availability equals M, T, B, F, divided by open parenthesis M, T, B, F, plus M, T, T, R, close parenthesis, where M, T, B, F denotes mean time between failures, and M, T, T, R denotes mean time to resolution across all failure domains. To achieve aggressive targets for operational availability, engineering teams must deploy chaos engineering frameworks directly into staging and controlled production environments. Automated chaos experiments intentionally inject network latency, terminate healthy compute nodes, corrupt persistent volumes, and partition inter-service communications. Analyzing system behavior during simulated stress events reveals hidden race conditions, invalid failover configurations, and inadequate timeout definitions before they manifest as customer-impacting outages. Circuit breaker patterns must be integrated into all inter-service communications. When an upstream dependency fails to respond within predetermined SLA bounds or exhibits elevated error rates, the circuit breaker trips, instantly short-circuiting subsequent requests and returning graceful fallback payloads. This prevents worker thread exhaustion throughout downstream services, containing localized failures to their immediate domain origin. Circuit breaker state machine. Failure threshold exceeded. Caret. Cooldown timer. V. Plus. Success criteria met. Plus. Automated remediation platforms consume correlated telemetry events from distributed tracing systems. When operational metrics diverge from baseline thresholds, the remediation engine executes targeted runbooks, such as rolling restarts, vertical autoscaling, network route redirection, or deployment rollbacks without manual intervention. Comprehensive audit trails document all autonomous interventions, enabling site reliability engineers to conduct rigorous post-incident forensic reviews and continuously refine systemic self-healing thresholds. Section 8. Distributed consensus, data consistency, and multi-region replication. Ensuring transactional consistency across globally distributed storage layers remains one of the most mathematically demanding challenges within distributed systems design. The immutable trade-offs formalized by the CAP and PAC-ELC theorems dictate that organizations operating over geographic distances must carefully balance write latency, partition tolerance, and transactional isolation levels to align with operational risk tolerances. Multi-region database architectures frequently employ Paxos or Raft-based consensus protocols to coordinate distributed state transitions. Within these consensus frameworks, leader election and log replication require an active majority quorum across globally separated availability zones before acknowledging write commitments. While this methodology guarantees strict serializability and eliminates split-brain inconsistencies, geographic propagation delays introduce inherent network latency overhead. To optimize performance for geographically dispersed end users, modern systems utilize hybrid consistency models. Transactional workflows demanding strict integrity leverage synchronous multi-region consensus, whereas read-heavy, latency-sensitive workflows leverage causally consistent read replicas utilizing conflict-free replicated data types, CRDTs. CRDTs enable concurrent state mutations across independent geographic regions, mathematically resolving conflicting operations without requiring centralized locking mechanisms. CRDT state merge heuristic. S_merged equals S_region A v S_region B, where the join operator, V, is mathematically associative, commutative, and idempotent, ensuring deterministic convergence across all replicas regardless of network delivery sequence. Continuous replication topologies must implement comprehensive split-brain detection mechanisms and automated reconciliation pipelines. In the event of catastrophic transatlantic or transpacific fiber cuts, partition detection algorithms evaluate heartbeat signatures across quorum witness nodes. Isolated partitions immediately transition into a read-only operational state to prevent data divergence, while the surviving majority partition continues processing transactions seamlessly, guaranteeing overall enterprise continuity. To understand the enduring brilliance of Tim Curry and appreciate why his artistic legacy remains so vibrant and vital across generations of film and theater enthusiasts, one must look closely at the roots of his craftsmanship, the courageous choices that defined his extraordinary path, and the profound resilience that has characterized his entire life. Born Timothy James Curry in Grappenhall, Cheshire, England, he was raised in an environment that fostered both discipline and a deep appreciation for the power of the human voice. His father was a Methodist naval chaplain, and from a remarkably early age, the young boy discovered the immense resonance of his vocal gifts while singing in church choirs. That early vocal training instilled in him an instinctive understanding of acoustic power, breath support, and harmonic texture that would later serve as the absolute bedrock of his dramatic career. Rather than seeking out immediate commercial exposure, he dedicated himself to the serious study of drama and English literature at the University of Cambridge and the University of Birmingham, immersing himself in classical texts, dramatic theory, and the rigorous discipline of traditional stagecraft. When he emerged into the professional theatrical world of London in the late 1960s, he was not merely an aspiring actor looking for a break. He was a fully formed, classically trained theatrical powerhouse ready to dismantle conventional boundaries and reinvent the nature of stage performance. His theatrical breakthrough in the original London stage production of The Rocky Horror Show and its subsequent legendary 1975 film adaptation introduced the world to an artist who possessed zero fear. In taking on a role that demanded audacious theatricality, soaring rock and roll vocal performance, and complete physical abandon, Curry established a precedent that would define the rest of his artistic journey. He would never choose the safe, predictable path, and he would never condescend to a character, no matter how outrageous or unconventional the premise might seem on paper. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, he continuously balanced high-profile screen appearances with demanding work on the most prestigious stages in the world, including landmark productions with the Royal Shakespeare Company and the National Theatre in London, as well as critically acclaimed runs on Broadway. His stage portrayal of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart in the original Broadway production of Peter Shaffer's Amadeus earned him widespread critical adulation and a Tony Award nomination, proving beyond any shadow of a doubt that beneath the playful, flamboyant exterior of his popular screen villains lay an actor capable of devastating emotional depth, exquisite technical subtlety, and world-class dramatic authority. What truly sets Tim Curry apart in the broader landscape of modern entertainment history is the absolute seriousness and dignity with which he approached every genre, whether it was high drama, broad slapstick, horror, or family entertainment. Directors and fellow actors who worked with him across 5 decades consistently marvel at his work ethic, his generous ensemble spirit, and his uncanny ability to instantly grasp the tonal requirements of any given scene. When playing the scheming Cardinal Richelieu in The Three Musketeers, he understood that the story needed a villain who was both genuinely dangerous and wonderfully theatrical, bringing a sharp, aristocratic menace to the role that made every political machination feel utterly compelling. When embodying Long John Silver in Muppet Treasure Island, he did not treat the film as a lightweight novelty. Instead, he embraced the spirited joy of classic pirate folklore, delivering a full-blooded, swashbuckling performance filled with sparkling humor, fierce swordplay, and genuine heart. Treating his felt co-stars with the exact same dramatic respect he would afford the greatest classical actors on the London stage. This total absence of cynicism in his work is precisely why his characters resonate so powerfully with audiences of all ages, creating an emotional bridge that turns casual viewing experiences into lifelong, nostalgic treasures. Beyond his legendary on-screen physical presence, Curry also pioneered a monumental body of work in the realm of voice acting, setting an industry gold standard that revolutionized how animated characters and audio narratives were performed. Possessing a rich, velvety baritone capable of shifting in a split second from aristocratic elegance to terrifying savagery or uproarious absurdity, he lent his voice to countless iconic animated series, video games, and critically acclaimed audiobooks throughout the 1990s and 2000s. His narration of epic fantasy literature and classic novels garnered prestigious industry awards, captivating listeners who could instantly identify that distinctive, commanding timbre. In animated series ranging from dark Gothic adventures to light-hearted Saturday morning cartoons, his vocal characterizations were never mere caricatures. He layered every vocal performance with intricate subtext, rhythm, and distinct personality traits, proving that great acting transcends visual presence entirely and can paint vivid, unforgettable worlds purely through the medium of sound. Even when faced with immense personal adversity, Curry's devotion to the craft of storytelling and his deep connection with his global audience never wavered. In 2012, he survived a severe stroke that fundamentally altered his physical mobility, requiring him to use a wheelchair and permanently changing the physical dimensions of his daily life and performance capabilities. Yet, where many might have retreated permanently from public life, Curry demonstrated an inspiring resilience, humor, and grace that touched millions of admirers worldwide. He continued to work steadily, providing voice performances for animated productions, lending his iconic presence to celebratory retrospective events, and meeting generations of devoted fans at conventions with genuine warmth, quick wit, and humble gratitude. His ability to maintain his trademark humor, his resonant voice, and his infectious joy in the face of profound health challenges solidified his status not just as an iconic entertainer, but as an extraordinary human being whose spirit is as indomitable as the unforgettable characters he created. When we look at the totality of Tim Curry's artistic legacy today, we see an unparalleled masterclass in the transformative possibilities of dramatic art. In an industry that often incentivizes safe repetition and encourages artists to remain within neatly categorized commercial boxes, he stood out as a fearless explorer of the human condition, illuminating the terrifying, the comical, the grotesque, and the deeply human with equal brilliance and boundless panache. From the frantic drawing room corridors of Hill House in Clue and the rain-slicked sewer drains of Derry in It, to the grand luxury suites of the Plaza Hotel in Home Alone 2, the musical extravagance of Rooster Hannigan in Annie, and the high-seas adventures of Long John Silver, he gave audiences characters that will live forever in the cultural landscape. Tim Curry reminded the world that acting is not merely about being seen. It is about the profound, generous, and joyful art of complete transformation, giving everything you have to the story and leaving behind a body of work that continues to entertain, thrill, terrify, and inspire millions of people across the globe.